Alright, we talked about a video I would make for you guys to review sentence parts. So I suggest you get your pencil ready, your notes ready, get ready to hit that pause button because there's going to be a lot of information coming at you pretty quickly. Let's begin. Starting with a review of first grade English, we know that sentences have two parts to them at the most basic level. They have a subject, which is who or what the sentence is about, and a predicate, which says something about the subject. This is represented in a sentence diagram graphically with a sideways cross, and on the left-hand side of the vertical line we have the subject. On the right-hand side would be the predicate. The verb is part of the predicate. It will be the part on the sentence diagram immediately following the vertical line that separates the predicate from the subject. The action verb indicates an action. Some of these are easy to spot, such as in the sentence, "He ran to the corner." The word ran clearly appears as an action, so it's easy to see that that would be the verb. However, some of these are less easy to spot. For example, in the sentence, "The fat cat on the chair must receive a lot of treats." The verb must receive might at first not seem to jump out at you as an action because the cat's just taking the treat. However, the cat is doing something in receiving the treat, so it's technically an action. Other verbs don't really appear to be actions because they're not observable. For example, in the sentence, "He thought about it." To think isn't really observable, and your mother certainly doesn't think it's an action if you thought about taking out the trash. But technically, you did do something if you thought about it, grammatically speaking. So to think would be an action. Now, linking verbs don't express an action, but serve as connectors. And what they do is they link the subject with either a noun or an adjective that says something about the subject. For example, in the sentence, "My dog Jasper is stinky," the linking verb is connects the subject Jasper with the adjective stinky. There are quite a few linking verbs, and you just need to memorize them. All forms of the verb to be, such as is, am, are, was, were. And there are also other words such as appear, and also words that pertain to the five senses that can be linking verbs. For example, the word smell could be a linking verb if I said, "Jasper smells like he needs a bath." However, if I said, "The chef smelled his stew," in that case, the chef is doing something, and the word smell would be an action verb. So on words that pertain to the physical senses, make sure you understand how it's used. Finally, there are these things called helping verbs, otherwise known as auxiliary verbs, which we haven't talked about, but these are verbs that are used to show condition or tense that are added to the fronts of other verbs. And in the example on the chart here, you will see how those can be used. Now let's talk about the subject of the sentence. To find the subject, simply ask who or what in front of the verb. This is why I always start by finding the verb, and then you can find the subject pretty easily. Now keep in mind that the subject must always be a noun or a pronoun. In the sentence we used earlier, "The fat cat on the chair must receive a lot of treats." Notice that the whole first part of that sentence about the cat would count as the subject. The actual subject is the word cat, with the word fat, an adjective modifying cat, and the prepositional phrase "on the chair" modifying the word cat as well, acting as an adjective. In the sentence, "A flock of many seagulls emptied their bowels upon my car," what word would you think the subject might be? If you think it's seagulls, you're incorrect, because the word seagulls is part of the prepositional phrase, "of many seagulls." And notice we said earlier that the subject must be a noun or a pronoun. It can't be part of a prepositional phrase because prepositional phrases only act as adjectives or adverbs. Therefore, the subject in that sentence must be flock. Note too that subjects can be compound, which means there might be more than one. For example, in the sentence, Mabel and Jasper can both be pretty insistent about their walk. Notice there can also be compound verbs and other parts of the sentence. Now, if the verb is an action verb, sometimes it might have some object that receives the action of the verb. We call that the direct object. However, some sentences with an action verb do not have a direct object. An example would be the sentence, I slept all day, with all day not receiving any kind of action, but just an adverb phrase modifying the verb slept. However, in the sentence, I made this video, we can see that the action of made happened to this video. That is, this video received the action of my making. Now let's talk about indirect objects. Indirect objects indicate to or for whom the action was performed. And if an indirect object exists, it will always precede the direct object. In the sentence, I gave Mabel a tasty treat. Notice that what I gave was a treat, which would be my direct object. I gave it to Mabel, so she would be my indirect object. Now let's talk about words when we don't have an action verb, but we have a linking verb. In those cases, we don't have any kinds of objects, which only occur with action verbs. But we can't just have a subject and a linking verb without finishing our thought. After the linking verb, we need either a noun, called a predicate nominative, or an adjective, called a predicate adjective. The predicate noun or adjective is indicated with a backward-facing slash on our sentence diagram. Take a look at the sentence, Mabel is a cross between a beagle and a basset hound. We can clearly see the verb is the word is, but after it there are several nouns, cross, beagle, and basset hound. Which one is the predicate nominative? The answer is cross. That's because beagle and basset hound are part of a prepositional phrase between a beagle and a basset hound. Please note that a predicate nominative can never be found within a prepositional phrase. A predicate adjective is simply an adjective that comes after the linking verb. Let's take our earlier sentence, Jasper is stinky. In that sentence, the linking verb is connects the subject Jasper with an adjective that describes Jasper. However, if we were to take the sentence, Jasper is a stinky dog, in that case, the sentence is finished with the predicate nominative dog, and in that case, the adjective simply modifies the predicate nominative dog. So that can be a little bit confusing. If you're a student of mine, now's the time to take a quiz on this material. You're going to email me your results for 15 items. Please indicate whether each of the emphasized words is the subject, the verb, the direct object, the indirect object, the predicate nominative, or the predicate adjective. Let's begin with number 1. I drove my truck to the store looking for some eggs. Truck is the word I'd like you to identify. Number 2. Sometimes the neighborhood is quite noisy, and today is no exception. Noisy. Number 3. English with Andrews is the best class of my day. English. Number 4. I hope Andrews will give me an A on this quiz. Me. Number 5. Nothing is impossible when you work for the circus. Impossible. Number 6. Jasper, Mabel, and Kitty all demanded food at the same time. What sentence part would Jasper, Mabel, and Kitty all be? Number 7. Kitty ate too much food and then vomited on the chair. Vomited. 8. You will lose 20 points if you do not pass this quiz. Points. 9. For vacation, I spent a whole morning making this video recording. 10. A box of paper clips in my desk suddenly disappeared. Box. 11. One thing I desire is more sleep this week. sleep. 12. I typed up a quiz for the students. Quiz. 13. This morning I wrote this quiz, vacuumed the house, and emptied the trash. What part of the sentence are all three of those words? 14. My neighbor and I worked together to sweep the gutter. Neighbor and I. 15. Where is my box of C's candy hidden? Box. One of my sentences has a grammatical error. If you can tell me what that error is, that will give you some extra credit on this quiz.